Hello! How have you been? Some energy, right? After lunch, hello! Woo! Well, this talk took me a long time because I wanted to build something special for you. So everything here is already on GitHub. All the slides are online also. So I'm here not just to talk to you because I know there are a lot of other great speakers here. So go after this talk and try out the examples that might help you a lot. Well, Node.js test runner, right? Who has here worked with the Node.js, the native test runner? Ooh, just a few people, right? Nice. So I'm going to talk to you about how it's been, right? I know a lot of people never seen this before. I'm going to show you why is it so fast and so good for the Node.js ecosystem. And I had a crazy idea of recreating the Node.js test runner from scratch to show you some cool stuff that Node.js has. So I really hope you will like it. Well, Node.js. Node.js is improving a lot. I know a lot of people are like scared because Bun, Dino, Cloudflare workers, and a lot of other runtimes, but this is great for our ecosystem, right? We are evolving a lot, and Node.js is improving a lot because of these competitors, right? Well, first of all, I would like to shout out to those amazing maintainers, right? The Node.js test runner is a very small team. We have over 10 people working on that, but it's been great. We started from scratch everything. We haven't had added any other additional dependency, and this is like 10 times faster than Jest, for example, but for a good reason, right? Well, I would like to start talking about a bit of history, right? Why we have this thing happening and when we started. So in 2022, we had Colin creating this first PR, and it was pretty simple. The first idea was just having the test and the assertion there, as Jest was doing, Mocha, V-test, and others. And this is pretty interesting. So he started working. I don't know if you noticed, Node.js now have the node mode, like built-in, like the watch mode. We have test runner. Probably soon we're going to have like the HTTP server module built-in too. So this is something great to see Node.js coming now. But I'd like to ask more questions, right? Why? The ecosystem is very mature, right? Jest is here for a long time, V-test, and other frameworks. But why should we have something natively, right? Why we should have something in the core? I would say the toughest reason is security, right? You don't have to keep up with packages, vulnerabilities, sub-packages like the whole black hole of dependencies, right? So this helps us a lot. We also have no need of polyfills. So something great is, if this tool is built only for Node.js, we can rely on the environment and we can use the toughest features from Node.js. So we don't need to do some workarounds to make it work in different environments. Also, we can use the new JavaScript syntax. We can use the latest features for Node.js as well. And it's seamless integration. This, for me, is key here. We can use what Node.js has internally, and this makes our tool easier to handle, right? Because this follows the life cycle. We can inject code and make it way, way faster. This has been great. And consistency, right? Sometimes we start a project and some people say, should I install Jest? Should I do setup with Vite or other test runners? But when we have it in core, it's way easier to just get started. And when you miss something, you can additionally install something, right? And this leads to boosting testing culture, right? Some people, I know people say like, we spend too long trying to create automated tests, which I don't believe on that, but I know when we have something natively, this pushes people forward to keep work with testing and creating stuff. Nice, but we are here to talk about Node.js, right? So I'm going to keep saying about some pull requests and some ideas on how this is being improving. like a whole headline. So Mocha just published this describe in it. It's very similar syntax of Jest and Mocha and other test runners. This was added to get more attraction, right? People say like, oh, I know how to work with Mocha. You probably will know how to work with Node.js. So this is where things get interesting. If we notice here, we have a function, right, to describe. We have a child, which is it, and could have like other subtasks, which is other tests. So I was pretty interested in how it was working. So what if we recreated the test runner from scratch? Well, I love recreating things from scratch. If you go to my YouTube channel, I've done Node.js from scratch. I re-implemented WebSocket, code coverage tool, and ESLint. I saw that there were a very good talk about ESLint. So this is pretty amazing. We are most understanding how the language is there. So I wanted to do the same for this talk. This is why I spent so long building something for you to take a look later, right? So yes, let's build something. Let's make crazy things. The best way is, well, Node.js is on GitHub, right? We can go there and see the whole history and try building up something closer. So I was in the previous sprint, and I just saw this message. Where the parent test is found, use the execution async ID the same way it's done in this PR. I don't know about you, but I haven't understood anything, right? It's pretty complex. What is this execution async ID? So Node.js has a very powerful API, which not all runtimes, JavaScript runtimes have now. But this, we can track all the asynchronous activity in JavaScript. Let's imagine you receive a request, and those clients, they have like an execution life cycle, right? So we can backtrack all the activities. Let's see this in practice. I would say this is going to be easier. So here, I'm going to import the async local storage that monitors this. And I have this storage enter with, and I have an object, right? Notice something. I'm not, the first time I saw this code, I was like, oh my God. But I'm just creating an object, and there's no ID related for that, right? There's no primary key, so I would know that this user is related to that. But see, when I receive this request, I'm going to just throw an error. And when I got this error, I could catch it from the process and see how nice is it. I can retrieve the response object and then reply to the customer right off the way. So this is crazy for me. See, there is no relationship, no idea, no IDs related to that customer specific, that request, but it was nice, right? So we can start using this. So my first idea for this demo was to backtrack what is the whole tree of execution, to check how this asynchronous storage is working. So once I have the log, I would say, oh, this logs comes from task name, which is the task, the subsuite, and the top suite, right? But if I had two different requests there, in parallel, right, two different suites, they shouldn't interfere in each other. I should see the whole backtrack of it. So now comes something interesting. So I created the it and before, but the whole key is here. So we would see that get start, right, to get that asynchronous function. But here, when I have the run, everything that is run executed on this async, I can backtrack it. So then I would execute my hooks like before each in the actual test, okay? I'm just showing just a matter of curiosity because I know you can use this API for a bunch of other stuff and just few people know that this exists. When I create my test using my test runner, I can actually execute as the native one executes. So I can run npm test and see that the logs are happening just fine. This is pretty interesting. This is something that Node.js is doing for a long time, but just few people know. OK, Node.js uses tap. Tap means test anything protocol. It's just a simple text-based protocol that we can use to print out our results. So this is the ugly output, I would say, right, for us humans. But if we we just get this to the spec or any other code, we can see this really beauty, right? So here I'm using the spec, the reporter, to transform that ugly text in other reports. This is why Node.js can print out in a bunch of different reports, because we have a single protocol that is widely used out there, and we are just following the same idea. Well, this was added in 2022 by Manekiro, and this is something great, because he almost built a programming language to understand the whole thing, right? So parsers are very crazy nice. Okay, let's jump to the future, right? We had in February this year, we had the test runner as finally stable. This means that you can use right away. This was backported to the Node.js 18, the current LKS, and you can start using right away. But this talk is about the newest features, right? I just wanted to give a brief explanation for those who've never seen this before and understand why this is so great. Why is this so fast compared to other ones? The first one is a bit controversial, right? I'm going to show why. Snapshots. Has anyone using snapshots? Nice. Snapshots is great. Node.js released this in 2022. And how this works. So when we're working with interface, sometimes we have to build very, very hard interface. So here imagine the calculator, and we usually had the assert snapshot. So when I run this test first, it's going to pass on the test and save it as a file. So if I go there, I can see this output. But if for some reason someone changed that output, the test won't pass anymore. I was like, this is great. We haven't seen this a lot on the front-end side. But it was removed, just removed from the core. Because we realized snapshots are much more than just analyzing text, right? Sometimes we have to analyze instances and crazy structures. So they said, no, let's just roll it back and try doing another good approach soon. Well, right now, if you download the Node.js core project, you're going to see this file that I suppose it's going to be our next public API to solve that problem of snapshot. But right now, we don't have any solution for it yet. But soon it's going to happen. Mocking, one of the things that I'm most excited about. We've been using Sign-On for mocking for a long time, and the contributors of Sign-On are working with us in Node.js, right? Actually, one of them is part of the directory. So before we had the whole thing mocking happening, we had the call tracker. This is the previous API. We just deprecated it, and we move it to a new API. So this is not good enough, and now we're going to see something very great. Now, if you want to mock, it's pretty similar on what we've been doing in Sign-On and other Jest and other libraries. So we can use the context. This is something great about the Node.js testing. When we have the mocking here, usually on Jest, we had to remember to like call reset, or before each test, we should clean up state. So what happens here is each individual test has its own context, and this clean up everything after the execution. So to mock an implementation, we can use the mock implementation. So instead of calling the actual service, I can just say, oh, this is a function that's going to be returned. I also can count how many times this function was called, right? Make a spy and inspect the arguments. Pretty straightforward. I know you might be thinking the Jest API or Sign-On API is, I would say, more human readable, right? This getting from indexes, I don't like much, but we're going to get there soon. And mock timers. Well, I've been working Node.js, and Node.js is hard because we don't know actually what we should implement, right? Node.js is so great, it's like, come on, it's been so long, probably they have everything they need. But then I start creating some ideas, and I realized they didn't have the fake timers that we see in Jest and other libraries. So I introduced the first implementation. I would say not I, right? Because it's a team work, so people were there reviewing and helping a lot. But as a contributor, and as I was working on this, I think you're going to see why this is way faster than the other implementations. So, first of all, how we can use it? We can enable only the timers we need. So when you enable set timeout, you're going to also enable the clear set timeout from promises and from timers and from global state. So here I won't wait for the 99 time there to be executed. When I execute this, nothing happened, but then when I tick, then I can see my function is happening, okay? So fake timers is just to advance in time without having to wait it. I think this is the easier explanation for this. But remember I told you, when we get this into the core, we win a lot. So we can use what Node.js is doing behind the scenes. So Node.js has this function internally called priority queue. Priority queue is a data structure so we can insert items by order of priority. Let me see. Let me show you. So here, what happens? When I want to insert an item, I'm going to insert for the time, right? The previous, or I would say in sign-on probably, when you insert a timer, like let's say set timeout, we're going to run in 3 seconds. So I'm going to have to run all this list and try finding what is the time that has passed and what is the set timeout I should trigger, right? This way, what I can do, I can make sure that all the timers that I want to be executed right away are on the top. Look how amazing is it. So I can use the ID also. If you have like 2 set timeouts with the same time, the one that is going to be executed is the one who were created first. So when we are actually executed, we have the peak, which is from the data structure, just to retrieve the item from the top. So I remember, all the smallest set timeouts are always in the time. So I don't run in the whole, I don't have to interact with the whole list. So this is way faster. I can remove it after I use it. If I have like a set interval, I can insert it again in the list based always on the time. And then I just keep doing. This is great, isn't it? So this was like, in performance, was amazing for us. And for me, I learned something new. I don't see so often data structures out there. All right. Remember, mock timers is to advance in time, right? This means that we have to override the date object. This was crazy. This was crazy. So Lucas is a friend of mine. He had a lot of commits. This was hard through other environments to implement, but it's almost there. What is the point now? Now, I would enable the API for date, and I would say, when I advance in time, now I would say the date object is going to be advanced as well. So this is easier for us to maintain and avoid flaky tests, right? It's way nicer. Okay, this is something easier, but I haven't seen people seeing out there. So we can abort our requests. If you're doing E2E tests, making requests to APIs, databases, once the tests fail, you can cut all the networking requests and just avoid and have to wait for those to complete. Way straightforward. And reporters. Reporters is something for humans, right? Now it's way easier for us. So the first version, the first discussion was in 2022. But then they just started releasing a bunch of new reporters there. So what are those reporters? We have the natively. The reporter dot is just 1 dot per test. We have also the tap, which is just the raw protocol. We have the spec, which is the native one, right? We always we see this natively on the test runner. And JUnit. Java in Node.js. It's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, the community, they were asking a lot, and then they finally built. And you can enqueue a bunch of reporters if you want, just to see on terminal, so this works just fine. And we're going to have lcove. This, for me, was the weirdest one, because it's very weird how they output the data, but probably it's I don't know, other reporters use this a lot. And this package, right, this is not actually in Node.js core, but I think it's a good to have. That is for showing on GitHub pages too, so on GitHub actions, so you can see all the reports. Well, code coverage, right? All test runners should have a code coverage too. And Node.js just added, not a while ago, this is cool to see, right? Probably people in the back won't see, but it's December 29. Imagine the guy, no, you know what, I won't party, I will just create a new code coverage tool. Very nice. Okay, how do we use it? We pass experimental, test coverage, and we're gonna see this beautiful output. Pretty different than we've seen in other test runners, but it works just fine. This, for me, was something that caught my attention, sharding for tests. Imagine you have thousands of tests, thousands of files, and you would split it into different processes so you can process it faster and use all the concurrency you have. So this was in July, it was just added, probably it's in the experimental stage yet. But there, just imagine you're going to divide all your files, not tests, right? So if you have 3 different files, you're going to say, oh, I want to run only 1/3 of this test and 2/3 and 3/4. So this is always related to the files, but this is amazing because you can create different processes and your CI is going to be running way faster. And something just to add it, right? We have concurrency. I've never seen people talking about this, but if you pass through this concurrency, all your tests is going to run in parallel. Otherwise, if you pass false, they are going to be sequential. Otherwise, you can specify how many tests you should run per thread. This is way, way nice when we have a bunch of tests. And this is something very cool for me, right? Because it's like the joke of the chicken, right? Who comes first? The egg of the chicken, right? Node.js, we have the JavaScript that runs in Node.js, but if we want to use like a keyword, async await, Node.js should implement it. So this is a bit weird, right? How they use it? They use a protocol. So let's see. This proposal says, I have using, and this is going to call like a destructor when I want to clean up the object after everything ran. So when I use this using, the protocol now says, because we don't have this yet, right? It's almost there, but we don't have there. So in Node.js, we prepare the whole environment with the system dispose. So using, when you're using this keyword, firstly, it's going to go to this trigger first, and then you can call it and use right away. So this is something nice, right? When we don't have this keyword yet, but we can just start using right away. And on the Node mock timers, it's already there, and it's pretty cool. Some ongoing discussions, right? Gossip, and something that we like, right? People fighting on the internet. So the first one for me, which is very nice, is supporting retries, which is controversial because if you want to retries, this means that you don't trust on your tests. But this is so common. Sometimes we just go there and retry, and it works, and we just go through. So this is something that we're not sure that if it's going to go live, but I think this is something good to have. And ESM, my God, have you seen the gossips? Like, Dino published one thing, BAM published another completely different thing. Like, we should support only ECMAScript modules, and Node.js said, oh, no, it's going to break everything, so this is something great. And those decisions in other runtimes are affecting Node.js and bringing discussions like this, and I think this is amazing for us to try reaching some good point. Okay, I brought you some news, but I would say you are here because you probably want to know some tips and small things that you can start using right away on your job. So my goal is always teaching things with no frameworks, okay? I don't use Express or any framework. I would like to see how it works without a framework so I can know where I need to install something, right? I know where I need something more instead of just installing. So it's very common to see super tests for making requests and port finder to find a free port on your machine. So here, what we are doing, I'm creating just a Node.js server, but notice the port. Port is 0, or you can omit it. When you use 0, Node.js is going to try finding a port for you. You don't need to install a library to try finding a port. Just pass 0, and that's fine. And on your test, we can see the log, right? It's like 65,000, the port that was open for me. But on your test, what you can do, you can import it. You can use the before each. So each case, if you want, it's going to be a clean server instance. So you won't have like flaky tests or won't affect the instance of water. So there, I can get this port, and I don't need super tests. I can use fetch and make all the requests itself, right? With no internet, so you can code this on an airplane right away, right? Flaky tests, my God, this gives me this gives me nightmares, right? It runs the first time, it runs again, it just stops working. Flaky tests are tests that we don't really trust, right? Sometimes we have to change. But after surfing a lot, I think these tips is going to help you to probably find problems on your work. So, Node.js, you can use process get active handles. So this is going to show you all the processes that are still there after your tests run. So in my case, I brought here for the child processes. So I was just creating processes and never killing them. This means that my process were memory leaking. So this is way nicer. And why is Node running has helped me so many times to find what happened on my machine. Has anyone ever used this? This is great. This is great. So how this works, we can use npx, run on our test or our code, and then it's going to show which line is holding your application. And then if you go to the application, line 3, as simple as that. So you can get to know, oh, probably something I should kill my application right away. Nice, isn't it? Ooh, you feel like, nice, nice, nice. So, all this talk, all the content I have, all the GitHub stuff, it's there on my website if you want to go and find more stuff. I know that a conference like this is a bunch, like it's a storm of information, but go there and try finding it, okay? Before I finish this talk, I want to take the traditional selfie view, okay? Woohoo! Animation. We need to solve. Woo! So, on 3, we're going to do, hey, just to make people envy from that camera, okay? So, 1, 2, 3, hey! Thank you so much for having me.